allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Here.
Mr. Franco.
Here.
And Mr. Cabrera.
I am here. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the notice requirements have been satisfied as to the time, place, and date of holding said meeting by posting notice on the bulletin board here in Borough Hall and by mailing and emailing same to the Herald of Cape May County on October 4th, 2023, and the Press of Atlantic City on December 13th, 2023. In the event of an emergency, your emergency exit is the door that you came in, our front left, your back right, or just by the American flag, our front right, your front left. Just want to do a sound check with our audio in the back. We have visual. Okay. We are being shown here live today here on the borough's Facebook channel and also the YouTube channel. If you're watching the meeting remotely and you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to use the dial-in conference line. That number is 888-363-4734, and when prompted, you're going to enter the access code 969-9020, followed by the pound or the hashtag. If you happen to watch this meeting in a recorded version, you can email our clerk at clerk@wildwoodcrest.org with any questions, or you may phone her at 609-729-8040. Madam Clerk, I believe we have two ordinances
Yes, sir.
to adopt today.
Mr. Mayor, can you move your microphone a little closer? Thank you. The first is ordinance 1434 regarding restricted parking for persons with disabilities.
Motions that ordinance number 1434 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1434 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1434 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest amending and supplementing Section 79-32.3, Schedule IC, Restricted Parking Zones for Persons with Disabilities of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest.
Motion that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1434.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1434 now be held.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
And Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Floor is open for public comment with respect to ordinance number 1434, handicap parking spaces. Sorry, anybody here in the audience? Anybody on the conference line have any public comment on ordinance number 1434? Hearing none?
Motion that a public hearing on ordinance number 1434 now be closed.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1434 now be closed.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that ordinance number 1434 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1434 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 1435 regarding a bond ordinance.
Motion that ordinance number 1435 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1435 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1435 reads as follows. A bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of new equipment by the Borough of Wildwood Crest in the County of Cape May, New Jersey, appropriating $700,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $665,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing such appropriation.
Motion that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1435.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1435 now be held.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Floor is open for public comment on ordinance number 1435, the bond ordinance. Anybody here in the audience? Anybody on the conference line have any public comments on ordinance number 1435? Okay, hearing none.
Motion that a public hearing on ordinance number 1435 now be closed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1435 now be closed.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that ordinance number 1435 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1435 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Thank you, Trish.
You are very welcome.
Okay, following the ordinances, we're going to move forward with the GIF presentation. With us here today, we have Paul Miola from the GIF, and also Casey Byrne as our risk manager. So, Paul, the floor is all yours. Casey, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Borough Council. Joining me is Paul Miola from the ACM GIF. In preparation for-
Casey, I'm sorry to interrupt.
sorry. Start over. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Borough Council. Joining me is Paul Miola from the Atlantic County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. In preparation for your upcoming renewal, he's prepared a presentation outlining the health of the GIF and where the Borough of Wildwood Crest stands. So, Paul.
Well, good morning, and thank you for giving me some time on your agenda today. Again, my name is Paul Miola. I served as Executive Director of the Atlantic County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund since its formation in 1987, until I passed the torch to another Paul Forlenza, about 3 years ago, and I retired a year and a half ago, but I'm back to see old friends and kind of update some of the members on what's going on with the Joint Insurance Fund. So I understand that you each have a copy of my presentation in front of you, and I want to thank Trish for having that all ready for everyone. And if we just flip over to page 2, I'll put my glasses on so I can read what I'm looking at here. You know, we've got some new challenges in the insurance industry, and I know Casey can attest to this as well. There's a very strong hardening of the reinsurance market, increasing premiums, especially in the area of property insurance. I'll talk about that in a minute. But here we've seen a 46% increase in the reinsurance for property coverage. Medical cost inflation has also taken its toll. We've seen a 9.3% increase in medical costs in the past 3 years. I think you've seen this reflected in your health benefits. I think the New Jersey State Health Benefits Plan has gone up some 17% in the coming year. Wage replacements under workers' compensation, they've increased. So all this really does have places some pressure on the GIF budget, along with some of the recent statutory changes and regulatory changes. COVID-19 hit us pretty hard. The legislature stated under workers' compensation that any first responder that contracted COVID was deemed to have contracted it on the job, regardless of where they may have gotten the contact with COVID. That's cost $25 million around the state in workers' compensation costs. Here in the local joint insurance fund, about $2.5 million of our workers' comp costs have come from that. Another area that started to rear its head is work comp reopeners. Employees have up to 2 years from the date of their last medical treatment to reopen a workers' compensation claim. We've started to see a lot more of that than usual over the past few years. And again, that's cost the GIFs about $145 million around the state. Here alone, almost $27 million in our joint insurance fund. Basically, petitioners' attorneys will set a diary. They'll have that employee go back in, be re-examined prior to the 2-year date. It keeps their claim open, and again, just adds to what workers' compensation costs. And then finally, the pension offset, another $13 million in costs, locally about $5 million, where total permanent disabilities used to be offset by the pension, state pension plan through PERS, and now the workers' compensation has to pay first for that. So again, very hefty cost to the GIFs. And then of course there's the social inflation, especially against our police officers. The allegations of excessive force have become more and more. It's become more difficult to defend. Here in New Jersey alone, we've seen almost $88 million in claims against police officers. Fortunately, not so much here in South Jersey, but still, it's a tough environment to take these cases to court. So again, these really do have an impact on our local budget. Just turning to page 3, this worldwide insurance crisis. You know, this is not just New Jersey. You see the wildfires out west. You know, Casey can tell you that just in the traditional insurance market, we're seeing the pressure here. If you've looked at your homeowner's premiums, your automobile premiums, if you own a business, you've probably seen that with your own premiums there. Our reinsurance costs are driving about 30% of our budget, and it affects all lines of coverage, not just the property, but also the liability, the cyber, and the workers' compensation. So turning to the next page, page 4, the insurance market, this property insurance market right now, it's really in bad shape. And I think that, again, I keep referring to Casey because he deals with this on a day-by-day basis, trying to get homeowners insurance for people down here at the shore. And, you know, a lot of this has to do with the global warming, the increasing natural disasters. Just look at the hurricanes, the floods, the things that are hitting down south right now, the fires out west. This last year alone, we set a record with 28 separate $1 billion property loss events, putting tremendous pressure again on this global reinsurance market that trickles down. And since COVID, we've seen a big increase in cost of materials and labor. You see that in building costs right here down the Jersey Shore, and auto repair costs. That's no surprise. You've seen how long it takes to get parts nowadays, the increased cost of labor. I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. Coastal exposures, you know, something we're dealing with right here. Very, very difficult to get that coverage for properties located along the coast, whether it's the Gulf Coast or the Jersey Coast. Really does have a big impact on us. We're very fortunate that the reinsurance that we purchase bundles together all of New Jersey's municipalities that are in the joint insurance fund, and that gives us more leverage. Just a quick story, when we started the JIF back in 1987, I remember in December of '86, as we were finalizing the reinsurance plans for the JIF, we had a meeting up in Morris County. It was in Hanover Township, and the reinsurance company said, you know, we're not so sure we want the shore towns. We're concerned about the windstorm and the flooding exposure. And Joe Giorgio, who was the administrator in Hanover Township at the time, way up in North Jersey, said you take all of us or you take none of us. And that really has been, I think, what's kept the JIF strong over all these years. And that's, I think, what's helped us get the coverage that you need down here in South Jersey. So, again, we've seen all these things hit us, and it's made it very difficult to get coverage for coastal risks. Flipping over to the next page, page 6, I'd just like to show you a little graphic here as to what impact our reinsurance does have on our total budget. You'll see it's about 30%, and again, this is where the COVID, the climate change, employment practices, police liability, the pension offset, and the reinsurance really do kick in to drive our budget ever higher. Flipping over to the next page, you'll see a pie chart here. I like to show this because I'd like to demonstrate the efficiency with which your joint insurance fund operates. We're running on less than 10 cents on the dollar. That's accounting for claims administration, actuarial services, loss control and safety services, our office's services. So I think we run a pretty lean budget when you see that we operate on less than 10 cents on the dollar. There are other joint insurance funds around the state and actually nationally, and we look at their operating ratios that are well in excess of 20%. So I think we're doing a good job there. And then on page 8, I like to tell you about how strong our bottom line is. It's good to know that your joint insurance fund is financially strong. We carry a surplus of $13.6 million, over $46 million of cash on hand. We've returned over almost $54 million in dividends to members. This is money that would have been insurance company profits if we weren't a jointure of municipalities. We released over just about $2 million in dividends this past year. Your dividend was about 7% of your annual premiums. And subrogation, that's where somebody injures one of our employees or damages some of our property. We go after them. We collect over $500,000 a year that offsets our budget in those. Your dividends alone, $1.34 million here to Wildwood Crest, including the 7%, $43,000 you received this year. Flipping over to page 9, I like to talk about the fact that you do need to take a look at joint insurance funds balance sheets. Competing joint insurance funds have balance sheets that include excess recoverables. That means they think that they're going to collect back from their reinsurers, but they're carrying these for 10 and 12 years, and there's no chance that money's coming back. You won't find that on our balance sheet. They discount the reserves, saying we're going to make 5 or 6% interest on the money set aside to pay claims, which again is unrealistic. High administrative fees, I've mentioned. History of supplemental assessments. There is one joint insurance fund not affiliated with the mill right now that's gone back to its members and is asking for an additional $23 million because they failed to carry enough money in their budget to pay their claims. So we've never had that happen in our JIF, and again, these other JIFs do not return surplus. So you want to make sure that you are with somebody that's got that financial stability. And again, on page 10, the value proposition of the joint insurance fund, our safety and risk management training and resources, the New Jersey Environmental Joint Insurance Fund, the Employment Practices Liability and Public Officials Liability Program to reduce claims, the EPL helpline where you can pick up the phone, you can talk to Dave DeWeese on our nickel. You've got an employee that comes in, wants an accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. You know, you can consult on that. Cyber risk support, I'm going to talk about that more in a minute, and the claims management programs that we have in place to try and control our claims costs. All of these programs are driven by the membership themselves coming up and saying, why aren't we doing this? What can we do to address these types of risks that we're facing? Next page, page 11, I talk about our training programs. This comes with your membership in the JIF. Last year, we did manager and supervisory training, about 700 managers and supervisors. We talk about their role and their responsibilities as supervisors. We talk about employment practices, liability, sexual harassment, hostile work environment, things that they need to be aware of, that these things should not be tolerated in the workplace. We also did separate training for your police command staff. We trained over 480 officers this past year. We also do specialized training for your rank and file employees, the online elected officials training, and a special program for your land use board. And then the safety side of the equation, where we have the on-site loss control visits. We don't just come down and count fire extinguishers, but we have a staff that meets with your supervisors to talk about holding safety committee meetings, wearing safety equipment, and those things that help make sure your employees get home safely at the end of the day. We do regional safety training around Cape May County. There's numerous safety bulletins, messages that go out. The Mel Safety Institute with the online training. And last year alone, we saw a 9% increase in that training, trying to create that culture of safety. The next slide, I think, is very, very interesting. It's something our safety director started keeping track of about 4 years ago. And it shows a correlation between the number of training episodes that occur within the MEL system and the lost time accident frequency, which is a workers' compensation claim that was serious enough that an employee is out of work for a period of time. And you can see the direct correlation. The more training that is conducted, the more safety awareness our employees have, the lower the workers' compensation rate goes. So we think that's a real benefit of being in the program. And then on page 13, I talk about risk management, which I say is a step beyond safety. We talk about the TULIP coverage. That is, somebody wants to come in and use your facility. You want to make sure that your taxpayers aren't paying the burden if they have an unfortunate incident that causes injury to someone. That resident can go online. They can get $1 million liability coverage for less than $100 a year, depending on what type of event they're having. That automatically names Wildwood Crest as an additional insured and gives you that certificate of insurance for your protection. We also just updated the certificate of insurance guidelines. These show if you've got somebody coming in to do work for Wildwood Crest. Establishes the different types of limits that you should be looking for. Casey, I know, is a big help with that. Helps review contracts to make sure that the indemnification agreements are not in favor of the contractor, but that they are protecting Wildwood Crest and your taxpayers. And again, we have model agreements on our website for that as well. And then the New Jersey Environmental Risk Management Fund, you're now a member of that, which protects Wildwood Crest against the midnight dumper. If there are any hazards that are uncovered in your public works yard, let's say there's a spill, these folks get right out there. They will interface with the DEP should it be necessary and provide coverage for you should that be required. The regulatory guidelines that they provide on their website and through various notices that they send out to the members are very, very helpful in that regard. And then page 15, the Cyber Risk Management Fund. A few years ago, we started to see the cost of cyber insurance escalate, and so we decided to do a in-house review of the claims that we were having on a statewide basis, and decided that we could do it a lot better and less expensively if we took the risk in-house, and created the New Jersey Cyber Risk Management Fund. And basically, the way the program works is everybody pays the same premium, based on your employee count and your risk in your particular town. But the way the program works is it encourages you to improve your risk management profile. So if you are not in compliance with the risk management program, you're going to have a hefty deductible should you have a claim, $50,000 plus $60,000 co-insurance over the next $300,000. Now with basic security, that cuts down to $35,000. That would be simple password protection, computer backups, things like that. Moving to intermediate security, that deductible drops even further to $20,000. And if you have the full boat of security measures, you pay zero should you have a claim. And we think that's a much better way to deal with this risk than simply bumping people's premiums and making it less affordable. We also have a technology risk services director, Jerry Caruso, who comes out, works with your IT people to make sure you're coming in compliance with the risk management programs. Claims management, we can't prevent every claim from occurring, so we do try to manage those claims when they do occur. We want to make sure that your employees are getting the best possible medical treatment. We also encourage the use of transitional duty, which I know is adopted here in Wildwood Crest. That means a doctor says an employee can come back to work, but just light duty for the next 3 weeks till I see that employee again. Allows them to ease back into the workplace in a productive role, reduces overtime for other people that have to fill in, and it also cuts down on payments for disability, workers' compensation, and also your overtime costs. The Atlantic GIF does a great job with that, using over 70% of our transitional duty days, and that has saved an estimated $636,000 by accommodating those employees. So again, please continue to support that program. Managed care program, we have a network within a network of specialized providers that understand workers' compensation and occupational injuries. Because we feed that network, we're getting discounts on medical costs of up to 70%. And then our defense panel, right here in South Jersey. They know the local venue, they know the plaintiff's bar, and I think they do a good job in defending you should you be sued for alleged injuries to members of the public. And finally, make strong use of Title 59 defenses. One of the things that we make sure that all of our members have is a tort claim notice questionnaire adopted by ordinance. You have that adopted so that when somebody wants to sue a municipality, they have to jump through certain hoops. And many times we've been asked to take copies of that, presented to the court to make sure that plaintiff's attorney is cooperating with that program. Page 17. Another area I started to see an increase in costs about 4 years ago was in auto repairs, auto repair costs. I talked to the fellow that does our auto damage appraisals, and his name is Leo Patetti. I said, Leo, how come we're starting to see this bump in costs? And he said, well, there's a couple of things happening out there. He said that body shops have this little technique that they'll sometimes use where they'll say, here's an $8,000 estimate to repair your car, and when it's all done, they say, oh, we found hidden damage. There's a supplemental for $4,000. And so we set some standards in place, including the fact that you can't just present us with a supplemental bill at the end of a repair job. We need to know in advance if there's going to be additional work done so that we can re-inspect. We also started a program where we're asking our towns, why are you storing your vehicle and getting storage charges at the body shop waiting for parts to come in when you can keep them over here and we won't pay storage charges? So another area we've cut down on. And same thing with upfitting on police vehicles. Why not use the state contract instead of having the body shop do it and price it up by 25%? So these are some of the areas, as well as others, that we're doing to try and reduce those auto repair costs, and we've done a good job with that. So coming down the home stretch here, just want to let you know we're flexible, we're efficient, we listen to our members. It is a member-driven organization. Connie participates in the GIF meetings. She sits on committees as your fund commissioner. We're always looking for feedback from our members. One example is, when COVID hit, we went to virtual meetings. After, we came out of that, we started to have in-person meetings, and some of the members said, it's tough for me to get out to get to the meetings. Can we do a hybrid? And so we did adopt that hybrid schedule, and that's just one recent example of what we've been doing. And the same thing with the safety, the safety programs, the trainings, and the elected officials training. A lot of that's being done online now, and that helps keep your staff in town rather than traveling out to do training. So as a governing body here, you folks set policy. You folks set the tone for the rest of the borough of Wildwood Crest. We ask you to continue to support the programs. You're doing a great job with the transitional duty. Your employees do participate in the safety training, the cybersecurity awareness initiatives, and I know that, again, I keep bringing Casey, and he's a very involved risk management consultant, but he also helps with the cyber area and our law enforcement risk management services to make sure that should your officers should there be allegations made against your officers, that the documentation in your police agency are up to date, so we can do a great job of defending them as well. So I want to thank you for having me here this morning. You folks have been a great member of the JIF, and looking forward to your renewal. Be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Sure. Governing body, any questions for Paul?
No, thank you, Paul, Casey, thank you.
Thank
Public
you.
have any questions while we have Paul here?
Could you just refresh my memory, what is reinsurance and reinsurers?
Yes. Basically, insurance companies have to protect themselves from catastrophic losses. Let's say hurricane hits, it might be beyond the insurance company's ability to pay. So what they do is they buy and it's called reinsurance, which is a worldwide market of insurance companies that specialize in this area. So we do the same thing here. We want to make sure that there's not a run on the bank in the JIF should we have a very big claim come in. Let's say several employees injured in a single accident, or a very big judgment on a lawsuit. So that's where the reinsurance will kick in after we've paid the first $500,000 of the claim, or the first $100,000 of the property loss.
What's above our self-insured retention
Yep.
within the jail.
So it protects us basically from a run on the bank, so to speak. I think-
Anybody else, any questions? Okay, hearing none, so Madam Clerk, I believe resolution number 3 is with respect to the presentation we just,
That is correct.
so do we want to do that one now, and then we can excuse Paul if he wants to
I
go?
have them numbered already,
All right.
Mr. Mayor, so it'll only take me a minute if I can just go through
Yep.
the normal way.
You got it, that's not a problem.
Okay, are we ready for that?
Yep.
Okay, so we have the resolutions. The first is authorizing fireworks display at Seafair's celebration on Saturday, September 21st, 2024.
A motion?
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing refund of mercantile license and tourism fees to Kristen Markey.
Motion?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Okay, now we have it. Authorizing the execution of a contract renewing membership in the Atlantic County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
I'll motion it?
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes, and thank you, Paul, Casey, and to all of our staff that touches the
Thank
JIF,
you.
because I know it's a job, for sure, and all the years I've been here, I've never had any issues whatsoever personally, so, good job, everybody.
Are you staying, Casey?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next we have authorizing increase of contract in the amount of $10,000 to Michael A. Jedziniak of Skorinsky Hollenbeck for COA-related matters for calendar year 2024.
Motion?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing refund of property taxes or utilities overpayment made payable to CoreLogic.
Motion?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is waiving all fees required by application to T.J. Hunt Memorial Foundation 5K 1 mile foot race on November 28th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Motion?
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of emergency contract to Anzalone Electric Company for emergency electric work to Beach Patrol Building in accordance with NJSA 40A:11-6.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Quick question on this one. Mark, this is not a change order, right? This is built
No,
into,
So if his price is X, is being deducted from the Straga contract.
okay, so
Yes, not an increase.
do you foresee any more change orders after this? After moving forward?
No,
No, so
No, I
what we
think-
have is what we have.
correct.
Okay. Yes, Tricia, second.
Thank you. And Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is accepting the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over grant from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety from August 16th to September 2nd, 2024, in the amount of $2,100, and authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay the flat rate per hour to law enforcement.
Motion?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Lastly is authorizing amendment to the 2024 municipal budget to account for additional funding from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety Mobilization for the 2024 Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over statewide Labor Day crackdown grant.
Motion? Second?
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
And Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I have a question about Bill. So, we've been with Atlantic City Electric, and I think I have it out a year, list of street light outages that the chief provided last year. I sent him an email just this morning to get an updated list. And we had, as of last year, about 68 lights out. So I don't know if chief can get me an updated list on that soon, because I've been asking for a street light to be fixed since March, and that's 5 months from now. They have not yet fixed it. So I know we had an emergency yesterday in Atlanta. I think they fixed that problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm concerned that we're getting bills and we're not getting things fixed. I don't have a problem signing this bill, but if this continues, I'm not signing any more Atlantic City Electric bills. So I don't know how you guys feel about that one, but I think if we have 68 lights, I do like to get an updated list. So if you don't mind, chief, or whoever has that access. So that's my thoughts on that one.
So when you're saying lights, we're talking about the
Street
street lights?
Streetlights, yeah.
Okay, because, just wanted to make that
Yeah.
clear.
I have a list here. It's an old list, though.
Yeah, I know there's one specific to Buttercup and Park that was reported in June, maybe even earlier than that, and that is waiting a special part that I'm aware of. Other than that, of the other 67 or however many it is now, I'm not sure. The one on Atlanta yesterday was more specific to the pole itself, not the light. The pole was deteriorated at the top. So I believe police secured the area, Atlantic City Electric came over and worked through the evening to replace the top of the pole and the transformer as well. So that issue has been resolved. And I will say to our municipal contact, Ronnie Town has been very communicative
Fantastic.
through that part of the process, but I'm not sure. I think the streetlights is a different division, but she could probably get the information that Commissioner Franco is looking for.
The request wasn't for 2 weeks ago, it was 5 months ago, so I think it's not
Gotcha.
unreasonable.
Yep, no, I agree.
Motion that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
And Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Okay, under correspondence, nothing listed. Under the discussion items, so we have some new business. So frat houses, and I apologize for that language, but we'll call it what it is. So when I think of frat houses, I just want everyone to think of it in terms of rental occupancy issues. And I have it, in my mind, broken down into two areas. One is with respect to those who rent their vacation homes out, and the other one is with respect to employee housing. The vacation homes, we've been hearing some concerns from residents and neighbors that there are properties that are renting through third-party websites or however, through the owner or however that may be, where they're bringing tons of cars eating up a lot of the parking spaces on the residential streets. There's some safety and some security issues that were shared. With respect to the employee housing, and when I say employee housing, I'm specifically mentioning the J1 students who come here overseas to support our local businesses' employment opportunities. So my understanding is there are rooms that are being rented out that normally sleep 2 to 4. Perhaps there's more than there. It could be like up to 6 to 8. Sometimes there's no air conditioning, especially the last 2 weeks. We've had hot and humid temperatures. So I'm concerned with how these students that are coming in overseas or anywhere are being treated in terms of their housing. I think there's some safety concerns, and I know there's some price gouging going on as well. So I just don't want Wildwood Crest to be known for taking advantage of seasonal workers, especially J1s that pay a lot of money to get here to support our local businesses. So that said, I would like to ask the governing body and the borough and all of our officials to weigh in on some ordinance changes that will tighten up and clean up some of the issues that we're dealing with. And I think we're too late for this year, but I think if we start working on it now, we can start having a good plan for enforcement before summer next year.
Would be any issue on my end. I know.
Mine either.
Okay. And I know there's some different entities that'll have to touch it. I know fire safety or the housing will have to touch it. I know that our solicitor, Galzunas, has already done some initial work, but we'll wait for him to, I guess, drive that bus as to what we need to do if everybody's got an agreement.
I know,
A couple recommendations to you there, sure.
so I guess what we could do is get our housing official together, fire inspection, and whoever
The
else
clerk's
we're
office,
gonna
Yeah.
need.
would
Clerks,
impact the mercantile.
Yeah, there's a couple, it crosses a couple of departments, so I don't necessarily need to be involved in that, but if you want me to, I'm happy to. Again, it touches a couple of departments, so I think, between Ron and Connie, you guys need to drive that bus as to holding the meetings and getting whoever needs to be in there to weigh in. So I'd like to get something, in the books. At least the folks who are renting this year, the landlords, they need to know that there's going to be changes for next year, because we can't continue to let this go on the way that it is.
Agreed.
I'll place it under old business.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll call it rental occupancy issues instead of frat houses.
Sure. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, that brings us to old business. I don't know if there's anything here to report. I'll just touch on everything here real quick.
I have one on the first one, if
Go
you don't
ahead.
mind. So for the lightning detection system, we got a proposal back, and it came in at 93,000, give or take, north or south, I can't remember. So it would come to about 31,000 per community to set this system up. Now, what we're really discussing is, when I first came with the system, we were talking about the beacons outside the sound off. Remember that? And there seemed to be a little bit of pushback, which I can understand. So this system is the same system without the beacons, no sound, but it would detect into the beach patrol building. So it would give the chiefs of each town the same information and the same understanding it's time to clear the beach. So it would be like an internal system that would happen for us all, which seemed to be the recommendation of the other two commissioners and myself, that they like that idea. So it's just not the beach patrol chiefs calling off 200,000 people off the beach. It gives them a better understanding and a stronger vision of what's coming toward us in the way of storms. So it's right now, we're just still discussing it. No move.
Okay. Yeah, I had sent some internal comments that I'd like to get some answers to, but I actually didn't bring that in front of me, so I'll recirculate that to everybody so we can get some questions answered. I'll keep an open mind. I personally keep an open minded to it. Just have some additional questions and
Absolutely.
go from there.
Agree, I have to dive into some numbers and see if it jives.
Well, the big thing that I'm happy with is the other two communities want to work together as a group, and we're still looking for grant money. So Wildwood's in charge of finding grant money for us. So that's where we're starting, and we'll see where we finish up, but I appreciate the support.
Since we had the GIF, does GIF have anything weighing on that?
The only recommendations that we had, more rely on just defending the borough in the event of an incident, and if the system doesn't work properly, which really align with proper signage outlining the system, what it's used for, and incorporating the procedures, use of the equipment, and evacuation procedures into an ordinance to help defend the borough in the event of a claim.
Well, we'll definitely incorporate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Casey, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, artificial grass is under the planning board review. I believe that's listed on their agenda for this evening.
It is, yep.
So we'll wait to hear the response from the planning board. The UEZ 5-year plan, that is being developed by Triad. 250th birthday committee, again, I'll reiterate if there's any interest from the public or anyone has any ideas, so we'd like to get a committee appointed to celebrate the nation's 250th birthday in 2026. So there's some time and some budgeting and some planning for that. Crest Municipal App is a 2025 item. Old tourism building use and the historical museum also in the plans for 2025. Proposed amendment to time limit parking. I know that there's still some work that needs to be done between the chief and Ron on that. I know specifically there's some New Jersey Avenue changes and some other changes to time limit parking. Concession agreement, hotels, own beach chairs is on hold. Traffic calming, I believe the grant application from Colliers Engineering is, I think they received everything that they needed to move forward on that. Back beach excavation is on hold pending the DEP and the Army Corps of Dune. Dredging, anything new on that since 2 weeks ago?
No,
Not on my end, no.
nothing new to report.
New Jersey Avenue Infrastructure Pre-County, that's the budgeting item for next year. Public Works, we received confirmation that they're looking to start that project. Materials have been ordered. It'll be in September at some point. So it's Public Works roof, Scoop Taylor basketball roof, and the tennis and pickleball bathrooms roof will all receive the blue metal roof. Baseline outfalls, capacity, bulkheads, and replacement. We are out to bid. Bid opening, when is the bid opening? for
August
that?
28th, 11 a.m.
August 28th,
And
okay.
we have a robust response so far. A lot of bidders picked up.
Okay.
Robust.
I'll put that in my minutes.
Does that mean it's a good one?
Use that word. Quotations.
Washington Seaview Beach outfalls and capacity, nothing, we didn't hear anything back from our grant writer on that. So
I did follow up with him. He has not heard anything yet.
Okay. All right, that brings us to a round of public comments. We'll start with anybody here in the audience. We do not need your address, just your name, and please come on up to the podium. Come on up to the podium, please.
Claire Vernolican. I am the person who coined the phrase frat house, so I take responsibility for that.
I missed your first name, I'm sorry.
Claire.
Claire.
So, I live next to a frat house, and I am thrilled that you have heard me, Mr. Mayor. You have really heard me, because I didn't expect to come to this meeting with any kind of action, but I see there's going to be action. Let me also say that I think the police in this town are wonderful. They respond to everything I call about, and I'm very grateful that they do that. Brian has been wonderful about the garbage, and so I have no complaints about garbage anymore because Brian has evidently solved the problem. My issue in speaking today is that we do already have ordinances on the books about over-occupancy. And as I've said to you many times, I believe the problem is over-occupancy. We have ordinances on the books that aren't enforced. So I know that you're going to get together and you're going to provide more ordinances, but you also have to consider how you're going to enforce them. Police have often come to my house and said they can't enforce over-occupancy because they can't walk into the house. I can't believe that there's no way to enforce certain things. Secondly, I believe that the cars that are parked illegally around that house, which are numerous, and I've sent you numerous pictures, I believe those cars should be ticketed What happens when the group in that house realizes there's no consequences is they move the car when the police come, and then they put it right back where the car was illegally parked. The position I'm in is that I can call the police, I say 5 times a day. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the police for my area. I just don't want to do that. So I would really suggest that maybe there be some new policies about police spontaneously ticketing illegal cars. I'm walking around my neighborhood all the time. I have a dog. I do not see a problem with illegally parked cars in this town, which is why I don't understand when the police are patrolling, they can't just see an illegally parked car and ticket that car. I don't get that, because the kids who are in that house, you know, one car checks in, they park illegally, the next car checks in hours later, they park illegally. It's a constant, ongoing problem with illegal parking. I guess that's all I have to say, is that I'm ready to put my house on the market because I can't live next to the frat house. It's that bad. I've said to you, there's issues about the after-prom check-ins at 2 a.m. where the kids are walking around the streets, emptying their cars. You know, Mr. Soroyan is at home, 2 hours away, sleeping, but I'm not allowed to sleep. And I find it unbearable that there's no enforcement of some of these ordinances. You have the ordinances on the books about occupancy limits. He wants to collect his $1,000 a night. He packs them in there, whether they're kids or families, and he's getting his $1,000 a night. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Chief, did you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I understand what you're saying. I would like to answer that, but I think it's better coming from the chief of police.
Oh, okay.
All right?
So in response to the illegally parked vehicles, of course we respond whenever we get a phone call, but we also do several a day. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we're constantly looking for illegally parked vehicles and doing self-initiated response to that, and writing tickets and moving vehicles that are illegally parked. As far as going in and counting the number of people inside of a dwelling, those people, under the United States Constitution, have an expectation of privacy that we cannot just walk into the house and start counting how many people are inside that home. So, I mean, I understand you're having a difficult time, and we've done everything in our power at this time, and we're going to move forward with discussions with the governing body about how we can more easily enforce some of the issues that you're discussing. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but you do have to understand a lot of these vacation homes, they're packing the homes and everybody's driving cars. It's not like it used to be back when I was a child, when you would all pile into the family station wagon and drive down with luggage bouncing all over the place. Everybody drives their own cars, and that is a problem that we're having in town, but it's not really something that we can regulate. So, sure.
I'm an assistant property manager for Casa Diamici, who we have very high-end properties in Wildwood. And we take our responsibility to the neighborhood very seriously. And we actually have rules for our guests. We post those rules. We tell them if they don't follow the rules, they're going to be evicted at their own cost. So what I'm trying to say here is that really the enforcement has to come down to the property owner. I realize that you can do certain things, but if the property owner isn't cooperative, it's not going to happen. So you need to perhaps think about enforcement in terms of how can we get property owners to be more responsible. I know there's animal house ordinances in some towns. I know there's lots of creative ways to make owners responsible. Okay. Our house happens to be next to the mayor of Wildwood, so that's, we have to be good.
I'd like to respond to that also. We do have similar ordinances here in Wildwood Crest. In order to move forward with summonsing somebody for that specific ordinance, we have to, as a police department or as code enforcement, respond to that property and find violations and document those violations, issue summonses. Unfortunately, when we're responding to this specific house in question, there haven't been violations that our officers have seen, and it has not risen to the level that we can move forward with the rowdy house violation. At this point.
So
Yes.
one incident last year, there were 25 kids playing ball in the street, and the police came and the police said, everyone who's registered in this house, please go into the house. And 25 kids went into the house. Is that not an evidence of violation? Would you consider evidence of a violation video cameras on my house, watching 25 kids pour out of the house on checkout day from, you know, a video feed from 12 midnight to the next morning? Is that evidence of overnight guests? I mean, how do you get evidence? How do you, I will do whatever you say in order to get evidence of this over-occupancy problem. I will spend money on cameras.
Well, rather than going back and forth here in the meeting, I think it's maybe better that we have a discussion outside the meeting and we can talk about how we can move forward to get you some kind of relief here.
I
But
think, if I can, I think it's safe to say, I think the borough wants to do whatever it can do legally, and that's the point of going back to the table, so to speak, and reviewing the ordinances and pulling in all the different departments that touches this. I don't think there's nobody here or anywhere that doesn't agree with you. It's just how do we go about getting it to the finish line? So
Just have to give the police department more teeth so we can go in
Yes.
and do it legally.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful, but I do understand that they have their limits. I do get that part, and I'm just like frustrated.
understood.
Thank you.
Okay, any more public comments?
Hi, I'm Mike Marino, and I had a question about the Beach Patrol building. Came up tonight because of additional funding, electrical, I guess the change order. So I'm wondering, is it fully operational today? What was the initial cost, the final cost, and impact to taxpayers if we have more change orders to come, and how would the bill be paid? There's a lot of questions there.
That last one was not a change order, right?
No.
Correct?
Not a
Okay, I
change
just
order?
So
Okay.
right now, we don't have a CO for our building.
Okay.
Right now, I think the last parts, maybe you could talk about a little bit more, Mark.
So, as previously mentioned, that emergency work for Anzalone is not a change order.
Okay.
It was done in lieu of. I believe that the electric's gonna be turned on shortly, and that's gonna put the borough in position to get a TCO while the borough works on a final punch list with the contractor. I believe we were shooting for trying to get a TCO by the end of next week.
Just so you're clear, when speaking to Buddy Johnson, who's our chief, we're not going to move into that building until maybe September after the guards are gone.
Okay.
To give you a date right in there, only because it's just, we're in the midst of the season and it's a lot to do.
Yep.
So he wants to get comfortable with the building, and then we'll move forward. We'll be functional for next summer.
Okay. Yeah, I was just worried more of additional cost.
Understood.
So,
I think we all are.
okay.
I don't even think I know we
And
all
I
are.
didn't see it on old business, so I considered it old business because it's not done.
Actually, to add to that, Commissioner, this action with that emergency contract actually had the borough was able to avoid a good $20-something thousand to get the
That's
project
good.
completed.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, public comments?
Morning. My name's Fred Metler, 109 East Stanton Road, Wildwood Crest here. I think you all know that I've been involved in the dredging of Sunset Lake for the last 10 years, but that's not the reason why I'm here, but Sunset Lake is part of the subject. We've noticed that there are 2 new aids of navigation that were installed in Sunset Lake over the last, I don't know when they were put in, but we noticed them over the last couple of weeks, and they are marked no watercraft. And there's confusion out there on exactly why they're there. I had an informal meeting with the mayor the other day, asking him a question about that, and he stated that those buoys were put in there to keep watercraft from coming into the kayak ramp, and that makes sense. But where the buoys are now, they're not even close to the kayak ramp. One buoy is probably about 700 feet west of the kayak ramp, and the other one is about 500 feet north of the kayak ramp. So any boats that are out there, they're not going to see those buoys to stop them from going into the kayak ramp. And it's causing confusion because people don't know why they're there. So the other day, I took my wife out in our boat and just to anchor down on the south end to have lunch, and 4 boats came up to me and said, "What are these buoys for?" And I gave them your explanation. So if they are in fact there for the kayak ramp and should be placed in front of the kayak ramp, and I'm saying not right up against it, but maybe 50 feet off of it, maybe on either side, I'd like to volunteer my services with my boat and maybe somebody from the Public Works Department to go out and relocate them.
So I have an update since we last talked.
Okay.
So I don't believe Public Works or anybody from the borough was the ones that installed those buoys.
Someone said a barge.
Yeah, so
Some
it
kind
was
of
not,
barge put 'em out there.
so because when you had asked me, when you had asked me the question in the hallway, I had already sent the work order into Public Works to put that in motion following my conversation with Chief Lloyd. So we wanted to make sure that we had it in the queue to get it done.
Okay.
I assumed they worked faster than I expected, and they had it in there. So I had said that it was, but it was not the Borough Wildwood Crest that set those buoys in. So it is a.
Oh, they're not?
No, it is not. So we don't know who put those buoys in there.
Chief?
So we have, the police department has been in contact with the State Police Marine Unit. Since our last conversation, they may have done that, but from our initial conversation, it was my understanding that they weren't going to place out any buoys. So it may have been the State Police Marine Unit, so we'll reach out to them and confirm that before we move anything, because I don't want to move anything that the Marine Unit put out there. But we'll confirm with them that it either was or was not them, and if it was them, we'll see if we can move them closer to the kayak launch, so there's not confusion in the lake area.
That's interesting, because it's, that was going to be my next question. Who's going to police this? You know what I mean? If somebody, if you don't want watercraft someplace, and watercraft or continue doing it, who's going to be the, the authority to police it?
Right.
So it kind of makes sense that the state police would be the ones that they're official buoys. I mean, they are, but I just didn't, everybody's asking, they don't want to get in trouble.
So it's not the borough. We're not sure. We think it may be the state police. If it is, we're going to see if we can get them moved. If we need your assistance, then we can reach out. But I think, I think as we mentioned, I think, we want these buoys to be, I'm going to say 20 to 30 feet off the base of the kayak launch, not a couple hundred feet.
Right, right. That's the confusion.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
it makes sense. I know you're having problems with watercraft going into that kayak ramp. We see it all the time, and we're scared to death that there's people in the water, on the paddle boards and everything else. But, right now, people are, I mean, that end of the lake is where everybody goes to anchor, to sit out there and enjoy the lake. It's the deepest part of the lake. It's, we can't anchor anywhere else. Yeah. So not to be able to go there was confusing to a lot of people. It was on Facebook and everything else, so we didn't know how to answer it. So
if it's on Facebook, it must be true.
Okay. Again, awful. Once you find out, who put them there and what they're going to do with it, then if you need any help, I'm glad to offer.
With respect to you, I'd like to run it with the chief and then him get that back to you
Perfect.
with the answers, and then we can do what we do.
Perfect.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm curious if this has anything to do with Lower Township, because a portion of that
Well,
is
one
Lower
buoy's in
Township.
Wildwood Crest and the other buoy's in what, Lower Township?
I don't believe so, but I can reach out to them.
That would
I can
probably
also
work.
reach out to DOT and see if they know anything. I doubt they will, but I can reach out, sure. I'll do that today.
Why would this is might be a stupid question. Why would the state police put buoys in the waters of Wildwood Crest without letting you know?
Well, we had requested it, because
Oh,
they,
you
they,
requested it. Okay, that makes sense.
Some buoys to prevent the watercraft from coming into the kayak launch.
Okay, for that reason. Okay, good. That makes sense then. Okay,
yeah,
good.
they
But
placed
You
one
asked them
before.
and they did it, they just didn't put it in
There
the right
used to
spot.
be one there before, which they placed,
Right,
and then that one disappeared.
Yeah.
So then we had reached out and said, hey, can you at least add at least one, but
Yeah.
if not two? And I think that might be what it is, but we're gonna find out.
okay. We have a buoy out in front of the yacht club just to keep the boats away from the swimming, and just my recommendation, those buoys will not last forever out there. We have to take ours in every winter, or else it's gone the next year, from a storm or something like that, so. Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Thanks, Fred.
Anybody else? Public comments? Anybody on the conference line have any public comments before we head into brief commissioner comments? Then we have a closed session on the agenda. Conference line? Okay, there's none. We'll move right to commissioner comments before we go into closed session.
I'm okay for Mayor, considering that we have.
I'd like to say last night was really a great night for our town, the National Night Out. Police put on a great presentation out there with the help of fire, EMTs, Public Works, and that was probably the biggest one I've seen. Would you say, Fred?
Yes.
I know you guys are cooking a heck of a lot of hot dogs out there, and a lot of food going out, and the kids were having fun.
2,000 hot dogs.
Is that what it was? And I believe those hot dogs were donated by Dave Bannon. So it was just a great night for all. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner? All right, I'm good. We're going to take a 3-minute recess. We'll clear the room.
Let me just read the resolution
Go ahead.
really quickly. Authorizing the executive close in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, specifically NJSA 10:4-12B, regarding 3 items: collective bargaining agreement terms and conditions with regard to health insurance coverage, contracts and negotiations with superior officers, composition, and potential litigation. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.